So, someone gave me this NEC SV8100 phone system, and I thought it'd be pretty cool to play with and set up in the house. So I played around with it for, I don't know, maybe an hour, and then I killed it. So it hasn't worked for about a week now. I've had it, and it only took me about an hour to kill it. What I did was, initially I wanted to upgrade the firmware, and I didn't realize how hard that would be. Now I did some Googling around and found a firmware file, firmware version 10, on this website here, which is a US site. So I copied the firmware files here onto onto a USB stick, and that's a FAT32 formatted stick. And what I'm trying to do is get this to load firmware now, because it doesn't work at all. So I'm placing the USB stick in the front port, and then I'm flicking the power button while holding down this switch. So what seems to happen is, if I hold this down until the USB stick flashes, it seems to copy the firmware files out of the USB stick. And then once the files are copied off the USB stick, I reboot the unit, and then it doesn't work. So initially the system worked fine, and I went and upgraded the firmware. I did that through the web GUI. It seemed to like the firmware. It took it, and then it rebooted, and then when it came back up, it had an error and it wouldn't turn on properly. It wouldn't boot up. So this is what I get now. It takes probably about 3 minutes. So I'm going to cut to 3 minutes or so from now. Okay, so about 3 minutes or so have passed. It just finished reading from the USB stick, so the light stopped flashing there, and then the 3 lights down here started flashing. So from what I've read online, it seems to have copied the firmware onto the processor card, and now it wants me to reboot it. So I'm going to turn it off and pull out the USB stick. Now, the problem is, in the YouTube videos I've seen, at this point, the machine will boot up and work and have the new firmware. I don't have that experience. What I get now is the same error I had after my first attempt at putting the firmware on, even though that was through the web GUI. So I did hear that, I heard from someone that the machines are kind of like region coded, so an Australian unit might not actually work with the US firmware. So I think that might be what's happened here. So I'm hoping that if I can get the if I can get the Australian firmware onto this USB stick, and then do the same process I've just done, I'm hoping this will come back to life. But I'm not sure. And to be quite honest, I don't really want to spend any money on this because it was free and I don't need it. But it's such a good looking system, and I've got so many phones for it that look like they're almost new. It would be a shame to not use this. So I'm going to see if I can get the firmware first, and if I can't get the correct firmware for this unit, then I'm going to see if I can find someone who can repair it, or it might just be cheaper for me to buy a replacement processor card. But basically that's the error I get now, where the LEDs just flash across. I really ideally would like to see what's happening through the COM port. I assume that would give me some form of console. But when I plug this USB cable into my computer, I can't find the right drivers for it. I have had no luck at all getting that to work. So I would really like to see like serial communications from this and see if it throws an error, but I don't think that's going to happen. But anyway, hopefully someone out there who's watching this has the Aussie firmware files, and hopefully I'm right and that is all I need. But if you have any tips or access to the files, please give me a message. Well, anyway, thanks for watching.